Hello and welcome to my Autism Ally podcast, where we come together to share helpful information about autism.
Welcome back. This is going to be part 2 of my Autism Allies discussion on Indiana Medicaid programs. I'm Susan Crowell and I'm joined by
Samantha Drudge.
We're here to talk about, now you've been targeted waiver. Now what are we going to do? So we're going to have another intake interview. Usually going to be 12 to 24 months from the time that you've sent in the application. They're going to want to have the individual with autism come. You remember from part 1, or if you haven't listened to part 1, we recommend that you go back and listen to part 1. They will ask the individual with autism to attend. If you need someone else to come with you, that's okay. It's acceptable. This is the process that tells you the state's approving the waiver and that you're going to get a pick list of case management companies. So we're going to discuss this process about case management and what it does and how this is helpful for you. The state of Indiana has 6 case management companies that you're going to be able to choose from. So they're going to give you a list, you're going to check a box, sign it, and you're going to send it back to the beads. Everybody gets really worried about which case management company is the best and how do I choose and all of these things. And by all means, if you have friends of people of the disability community, ask them who they use. It's not like it's some big secret. But in my perspective, the case management companies kind of all do the same thing. What's really important is the case manager. And I'm sure Sam has got things to say here.
Yes, and I'm going to say this as someone who was a provider for a while, who worked with case managers. And not all are made the same. Not all are communicate the same way. And you've really got to find someone that you can talk with, because this is the person who's going to hire and fire those services. You don't have to. This is a person that you need to be able to call, text, however you communicate best, and answer your questions, as well as you say, okay, this therapist isn't working. I want to switch companies. You don't have to say anything to that staff that comes in and does that therapy. That's the case manager's job to fire them. So you really need to build that. That's the more important part to me.
Yes, to me, it's the case management. I mean, and don't get me wrong, I know people from all the case management companies. They're great people to be found at every one of them. The key is finding the individual. You're going to be letting this individual into your house. They're going to be interacting with your loved one on the spectrum. You need to have a pretty good relationship with this individual. So for me, the case manager is a much more stressful in the scheme of things than being the case management company. So you get to choose, you get to pick, choose, and interview the case managers that are available at these companies. So when you choose your case management company, then they're going to give you a list of who they have available in your county that's taking on clients. And then you get to, go through that interview process. So once you choose the case manager, now there's going to be more steps, but the case manager is going to be there to help you. And the biggest step is, how do we choose the services? Well, the first thing is that I put on this list is that there's this manual, the DDARS manual. Trust me, you don't want to look at the manual.
No.
150 pages long. I mean, it's enormous and it's full of stuff that is not applicable for your loved one on the autism spectrum. It is about every resource that's available through waivers for individuals with disabilities outside of autism even. So even aging individuals and individuals with Down syndrome there, that it's not going to be applicable to you. But, by all means, it's online. We can provide a link in the show notes if you're one of those curious people. But the whole idea is that you're going to work with your case manager to determine the appropriate services and your budget for the year for those services. And the Family Supports waiver budget for 2022 is $19,614 per year. You're not getting a check for this much money. This is a budget. These are funds that are allocated to you. Now, about $1,600 of that has already been spent.
Mm-hmm.
That's what's paying for your case manager. So roughly you have $18,000 worth of services for the year. And then there's going to be lists for every service that is available. And, Sam, what have been some of the most impactful services for your kids? Because I'm curious. I want to talk a little bit about this.
So when I was in waiver world, music therapy was huge because a lot of kids who are non-verbal, that was a way of them being able to share how they're feeling. I feel happy, so we play this happy sound, or, working on being able to communicate through music, and or how to calm those high behaviors down, how to use music in a therapeutic way. I would also say rec therapy. I think rec therapy was like almost on all of my kiddos' teams because it is so amazing what physical activity and being goofy and fun. And these people love what they do. I mean, every meeting I've ever gone to that had one, they were just like, yeah, we did this, we did that. And I'm like, I want to be you. I'm like, that job sounds fun.
Yes. And some other options. I mean, there's things like respite, PAC, which is participant assistive care. Those are pretty generic type caregiving type services.
Yep.
Behavior therapy. If you have a kid with high behavior issues and high behavior needs and you need help with that in the home thing, that is a great service to get connected with. But again, one of the things that is going to be different for this than some of the services, music therapy can be done in your home, recreational therapy. I mean, ideally they want to go out, they want to do something out in the community, but they can be done in your home as well. So that's why it's important that when you're hiring providers and you're beginning the services, pick something that works with your schedule. Make something that fits in with your lifestyle. Take that time and make it so that it works, because that way you're more apt to make it happen and the individual is going to benefit long term. There is this other portion we call Medicaid disability that comes once you're targeted with the, and sometimes this can be more impactful for families than the $18,000 worth of services, the waiver budget. There was a time in our lives where insurance was complicated and we were changing jobs, and I at least didn't have to worry about coverage from Matt. So I was thrilled that we had this portion.
Well, and just how much is covered by it. Like, I don't think families understand that. I mean, Ethan's on it. I mean, it's super, it covers everything. Yes. Everything.
And the reality is that once Medicaid's paid, they can't come onto the individual or the family to get the remaining. Once taking that Medicaid payment, it's done. Again, this is going to be the insurance portion of it. So this is based on disability, not parental assets and income. So they've already qualified. They've already got the waiver services. This is coming in addition to it. Mm-hmm. So it's going to cover everything that Medicaid typically covers and more. But like I mentioned and Sam mentioned as well, this can be used as primary insurance, secondary, or tertiary. So in my family, my husband was an insurance provider. And so when we got our waiver, our son got the Medicaid disability. And so it became the secondary payment. So think about it. All the time you go to the doctor, there's a copay. All the times you're going to the pharmacy, there's a copay. If you're doing outpatient speech or occupational therapy, different therapies like that, there's always a patient portion. Well, if they take Medicaid, not anymore. That's going to be money that's going right back into your pocket. It can be a huge
game changer.
It is a game changer. I mean, there were times that we were paying, oh my gosh, hundreds upon hundreds of dollars a month pays for therapy and doctor's appointments and things like that. When we finally qualified and was targeted for the waiver, that was just huge. It was like, wow. So again, this is going to be kept regardless of the parental financial situation if it changes. So if your spouse that has the insurance coverage, or you, if you have the insurance coverage, loses your job or something happens and you lose that primary coverage, then this just bumps up to make it the primary insurance coverage instead of the secondary or the tertiary. So the participant does not lose their coverage if the parent financial situation changes. And that's just a huge comfort given some of the challenges in employment these days. So, and Sam kind of alluded to this earlier. What if you're not happy with the services? And don't feel bad. This happens all the time. When you're dealing with people, some people mesh well and have great relationships, and they can, your loved one with autism to participate well and have a great time. But what if that's not happening? What if you feel like we're just at this standstill and I'm dragging this kid to music therapy and I don't want to go? Well, the question I think you first ask yourself is it a provider issue or is it a service issue? Is it, I don't think my kid likes music therapy, or I don't think my kid likes my music therapist? And there's a distinction.
Yep.
Figure out what that is first. If you think it's the therapist, ask yourself, is changing the music therapy company what I want to do? Or is it just I want to change the therapist? Because sometimes you can stay within the same place that you're getting services already. Just get yourself a different therapist.
Exactly.
And that's, again, is something your case manager does. You don't have to make that happen, but give yourself some thought of what is it exactly I want to change here. So, but if you think it's no, I think we need to, either stop the service altogether, or I just want to go to a different music therapy company. And obviously this could be rec, this could be anything. It does, we're picking on music.
We're picking, yeah.
Because we want to. Then, make that change. Make the change that makes the most sense to you. I get, kind of trust your gut on that one. But again, your case manager is the one that's going to be making these changes and making them happen. All of the providers are hired and fired at your discretion, including your case manager and your case management company. If at any time in your, journey with waiver services, you go, this case manager was really great, but now I can't get a hold of him or her, and they don't respond to my phone calls, they don't respond to my emails. Again, ask yourself the same question. Do I just want a different case manager, or do I want a different case management company? If it's you want to get a different case manager, reach out to your current case management company, and they will provide you a new list of people that are taking clients in your county. If it's you want to change the company, you need to reach out to Beads. I guess we'll put that link in the show notes.
And I guess I do also want to say you can communicate with your provider. So say you just are, the therapist is not working and you have a good relationship with the provider that you have, feel free to reach out to them and say, okay, this isn't working. Do you have another therapist? If you want to, or you can have your case manager do it. I always had families who did one or the other or both. and that's okay, because you need to be able to get with the service that is going to be most beneficial. Don't use those dollars or let money go away that isn't working for your individual.
Exactly. And that's why I tell families, if you think that your case manager isn't meeting your needs, change it, because they're getting paid with your dollars regardless of whether or not you think they're meeting your needs. So at least make these things work for you. Okay, just to kind of recap what Sam and I are saying. You can change your service provider or change the type of service at any time, whether it's the individual providing the service or whether it's the service being provided, rec therapy, behavior therapy, whatever it is. Those things are all changeable at any time, because as we all know, what works for one kid with autism doesn't necessarily work with another kid on the autism spectrum. So you want that type of flexibility. And obviously the services are going to change as they get older.
Definitely. So, and again, keep that in mind.
Yeah. And it's your case manager's job to carry out these changes and to figure out all the budgeting related issues associated with that change, because certain services cost more than other services. So if you're using, let's say, for example, behavior services, those are like the most expensive service that you can get. If you're using a lot of those services, you're going to burn through your budget a lot faster than if you're using, say, PAC or music therapy, or, I mean, even rec. But it's your case manager's job of your budget you've spent, kind of give you the heads up if you're making big changes, related to if you're not going to have enough money to be able to do that for the whole year or things like that.
Yep. And they are very good at doing that. That is definitely a big part of their job. So asking, hey, if I change to having behavior management, what does that look like then for the rest of the year? And say you're in the middle of the year and they say you're only going to get 3 months because we've already burnt through with rec therapy, music therapy, respite, and PAC. They're going to be able to break that down for you.
Exactly. And if you find yourself in a situation where you are spending the complete budget in very short periods of time, and Sam and I we can just go off on this little tangent for just a second. If you're like using all your behavior management services and you are not even lasting like 3-4 months a year, it's time to be talking about whether or not we need to change the type of waiver you have.
Exactly. And that's a question that you can talk with your case manager about.
Exactly. There is such a thing called the CIH waiver, the Community Integration Habilitation Waiver. That's a much bigger dollar amount associated with that. But again, that waiver is for individuals with very high needs. And there are a lot of limits placed on who can get that waiver. It's not the most readily accessible waiver.
Yep, for sure.
So what if your needs change? Well, obviously they're going to change. Your individual with autism is going to get older. And so are you, by the way. So there's plenty of things that change. And that's why the waiver doesn't have these set boxes like you have to do this therapy or you have to do this therapy. It's why there's this big flexible pile of money and you can spend it the way you want so that you can get the services that is appropriate for your kid. When my son was really little and we started waiver, we did therapeutic horseback riding because it was something he liked to do. But as he got older and bigger, not so much. So what did we start doing? We started doing music therapy, actually, because that was the thing. He loves music, and that was the thing that, I thought would be of the most benefit. So keep that in mind, is that, and I'm sure Sam can speak to this too, that there were times that littles like different things. And that's just same with typical kids.
Oh yeah. And try something. And then if it doesn't work, try something else. I mean, you have a huge category, that's not the right word, a huge list of options. Try something new. If something sounds interesting and your case manager kind of gives you a little bit more information about it and you think, okay, let's try it. If it doesn't work in 2 months or a month, switch. That's the cool thing about the waiver.
Exactly. And so much of what's included in the waiver are not necessarily things that insurance typically pays for to begin with. So this is the opportunity to try different things. I know a friend of mine who, her boys were getting older and they weren't so much, interested in doing some of the things they were doing. And she was like, I don't know about this music therapy thing, but fine, let's sign him up for it. What are we out? And it turned into something life-changing for her two sons on the autism spectrum. The one had lots of anxiety, and the music therapy was able to help deal with that and help him to be able to articulate things better. The other child ended up developing a passion to being able to want to play an instrument. And so, working on fine motor skills, being able to do things like that. There's a lot of things that therapists can work on. Rec therapy is obviously going to be more about physical, gross motor activities, but it's also social. It's about taking them out into the community and interacting with other people. So there's a lot of different skills that these services can cover. And in the upcoming weeks, we're going to be talking to different therapy providers. We're even going to be talking to case management companies so that you can kind of like sort through and even just hear it from them about what they do. And I'm really excited about that.
Oh, definitely. And I do want to have everyone keep in mind, especially in the northern part of the state here in Fort Wayne, there is camp, as an option too. And some people don't know about Camp Red Cedar, but I'll put a plug in for them.
There you go.
It is definitely things to talk about. What services are available at different times of the year too.
Yeah, exactly. What happens when your child turns 18? Well, let me tell you, a lot.
So much.
We're just going to a couple of things here because it does apply to the waiver. One, before your child turns 18, identify whether or not you think you need to pursue guardianship over them.
And that is like 17. Start thinking about it when they turn 17.
Start thinking about it when they're late 16, early 17. We have resources in the community that if you financially qualify can assist with providing guardianships at low to no cost. So contact us at My Autism Ally to find out more about those resources. If you do not pursue guardianship, the control of the waiver services transfers to the participant. So things to take into consideration. You, as a participant, can sign away your waiver and all of the associated benefits, and you would not be able to get them back.
I will also say we have a power of attorney over our son, and he's higher functioning. So, look at your options.
Exactly. And guardianship doesn't have to be permanent.
Right.
You can set up guardianships that just kind of extend this. But that 18 number is not just for waiver, that's for everything. That's their medical decisions.
Yep.
That's them for school. All of these things all of a sudden become they're in control. And you just need to ask yourself whether or not your individual with autism is ready for that kind of control. Some of those decisions are going to be easier than others. Sam obviously mentioned power of attorney. That's helpful, but each one of those have different levels.
Yes, definitely.
Of what can and cannot happen.
And I would recommend, if you haven't already listened to some of our other podcasts, we have Gordon Holmes, who's going to be doing a guardianship
and
podcast.
Able accounts. Yes, that's coming up.
And those are really things that I think are important to whether or not you choose one or the other. You have to do what's best for your family and for your individual.
Exactly. And don't be afraid to ask questions. And we're here to help with that. SSI eligibility may change when they turn 18. I know that for my family, SSI is based on parental assets and income. So if they didn't qualify for SSI because you and your spouse or your household made too much money at 18, they probably will. So you're going to want to reapply for SSI. That would be very important. And then just to note that because of that, you are not going to want to have assets and income after expenses that does not exceed $2,000. That's why that ABLE account conversation paired with guardianship.
Yep.
That would be a good one to look at because those two things go together very well. That's a way to protect assets above that $2,000 mark. So if you have more questions, who do you want to talk to? Where do you go? Call BEADS. That's always an option. One thing I do want to note that I don't know if I've mentioned is that if you move within the state of Indiana, it's not like you have to completely reapply. So let's say you're moving from Indianapolis to Fort Wayne. There's only going to be a few things that you have to change. One is you're going to have to get in contact with your new local beads office so that they can then help you figure out which case management company and which case manager that you're going to do. So it's not a lot of changes, but it's not like you have to reapply, I guess is what I want to say. If you have questions at any time, you can always contact your case manager, or you can contact us here at My Autism Ally. Our mission at My Autism Ally is dedicated to helping those affected by autism to reach their full potential, regardless of their gender, race, age, or level of severity, by providing support and information to individuals, families, and communities in Northern Indiana. Find us on all the social media. We're on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, YouTube, Twitter. We're everywhere.
We are.
We really are. And here's more specific information to contact us. We're so glad that you were able to join our conversation today about the Indiana Medicaid Waiver Program. Be sure to check out our other podcasts or YouTube videos for more information that can be helpful to you and your family.
Thanks for hanging with us. This next segment, you may be an autism parent if you have 1.5 million toys and your child still prefers to play with the laundry basket and the remote.
My Autism Allies Autism Acceptance Walk returns to the Allen County Fairgrounds Sunday, September 11th from noon to 4. It's an afternoon of activities and resources for the whole family, including supports for those on the autism spectrum. Food trucks, a vendor fair, pony rides, face painting, sensory play, balloon artists, and much more. And it's all free to attend. The Autism Acceptance Walk at the Allen County Fairgrounds, September 11th from noon to 4. Visit myautismally.org for more info. Presented by Hot 1079.
With over 88 years in business and over 100 trucks on the road, Parker Towing and Recovery is available for any and all of your towing needs. From light to heavy-duty towing, recovery work, hauling equipment, roll-offs, or regular roadside needs, Parker Towing and Recovery is here to keep Fort Wayne moving. Their dispatch center is open 24 hours a day to assist you. Give them a call at 260-485-9014. Parker Towing and Recovering, keeping Fort Wayne hooked.
Thanks for listening. Please stay connected with us on Facebook, Instagram, and sign up for our newsletter at myautismally.org. Talk with you next time at the My Autism Ally podcast.